we've seen, I think, over the last 3 weeks or so, Trump rhetorics around Nigeria and all that, which everybody's familiar with. What do you think they make of all this insecurity?
So I wouldn't take what kind of religious violence is happening right now as like, oh, we're on this journey and like it's inevitable. I would look at it more as, why did this attention come at this moment?
I'm grateful to the American president for bringing it to the fore, because prior to that, we're not taking it seriously.
I don't fundamentally believe like he woke up and just started caring about Nigerians being killed.
I know for us who live in southern Nigeria, right, it almost seems like we are not sensitive to a lot of stuff that's going on in the north, right? The truth remains that Nigerians are being killed every day.
You know, part of me thinks Trump's attention to this is pretext for something. You know, Dangote's refinery as one example of he's taking business from people that used to supply Nigeria. Those people could whisper to the president and say, hey, let's go create some issues there. The mistakes in the US around just funding sick care, right? So healthcare should mostly be about prevention, and prevention from the perspective of helping people understand, I think, what they need to do to be healthy, understanding the early signs of disease and issues, because anything you catch early is always better. But I think most people, because we don't have that culture, you don't really seek help until you feel the pain. And if you're feeling the pain, it's usually too late, right? So if an HMO exists today to literally just pay your bills when you're sick, then I don't think it's doing enough. I think it needs to invest some of that premium money into its members' prevention. I think there's a chance to build a system that could invest more in prevention and figure out the right business model to make more money with prevention versus just like building hospitals and trying to make your money on procedures and drugs. I think if by doing that prevention is ignored, I think we end up with the crisis we're in now, where the life expectancy of the Nigerian is 54 years or something very low. It's like one of the lowest in the world. And then if people are sick on the way to dying at 55, I'm like...
I think our best hands in the medical field, doctors, nurses, even technicians, right, are constantly jackpying.
Well, let's close this section with veteran care, which you do have a lot of experience in. So
what we see and what's known is that like every single day between 16 and 20 veterans take their own life, right? So that's
15 to 20.
Yes,
in the US
every day.
Every day.
Hello everyone, welcome to Drinks and Mics, brought to you by Nairametrics. I remain Ugodre, and if you're wondering which side of the seat I'm on, well, Tunji is not around today, so I'm not just taking his spot, I'm taking my spot as well. As the main man. Anyway, don't worry for Tunji's fans wondering where the heck he's been. Tunji's busy making money, but he's gonna be back very soon on Drinks and Mics. But never mind that we have another bumper session today. A whole lot to talk about, from macros to healthcare to the streets as we prepare for Dirty December. There's a whole lot we're going to talk about today, and I have in the studio the right people that I want to see when we're discussing things, like the right experts. Of course, I've got with me Arnold Green. Hey Arnold, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I've got a bone to chew with you, but we're gonna get to that. In a bit. We've got, of course,
like I say, it happens. It happens.
It does
sometimes.
Really? I see. Really do you miss? Very soon, you know what we're talking about. Of course, you know what we're talking about. We've got second time regular Biodun Fagbulu in the house. Hey.
Fabulous.
You know, the funny thing is, besides me, Arnold, Tunji, Otumba, and Sam, you're the first guest that's been here the second time.
Of course,
Excellent. So
you're now a staple. You're now a pillar.
It's a pleasure to be
the
here.
Sixth pillar
again.
Always good to have you, bro.
Thank you.
All right, so we've got a special guest in the house today, Laolu Akinyele.
Yes.
Akinyele.
Yes.
Yeah, because people forget that I speak Yoruba very well.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's great.
Fluently. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So Laolu, tell the audience what you do.
Oh, wow. Where do I start? So, Laolu Akinyele, born in Biodun, moved to the States in 2002. And right now, I run a venture studio. And as Arnold asked, what is a venture studio?
Yeah.
So, a venture studio is sort of the earliest form of venture capital. And what that means is...
Earliest form?
Earliest form. So, we incubate our own companies. So, we're not even the first check. We create the companies. And so what that looks like is, my team and I come up with ideas and kind of work with our dev team that's based here in Nigeria. And then we usually start working on building out the product, finding the right co-founders, and then sort of taking that solution to market. And so before that, I was the chief innovation officer at the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs and really tried my best to move the needle. But, bureaucracy is bureaucracy. And
everywhere, man, not just in Nigeria.
It wasn't moving. And before that, management consultant, MBA, undergrad in econ. So just more of a business guy that stumbled into government to try and make a difference so that there was no difference to be made and sort of moved back into the world of business, but mostly focused now on sort of startups, entrepreneurship, stuff like that.
So that's what you do now?
That's what I do right now. I've been full-time.
How'd you make money from that, though?
How do I make money?
Yeah, from
Incubation.
for venture studios.
Okay, I mean, so you're creating a company that sells a product, or a service. And so for me, especially coming out of the government, we essentially started building technology-enabled solutions for government. And so the Department of War, as it's now called, was one of our customers until Elon and his hatchet came in and canceled some of our contracts. Doge just wrapped up though. So I think the impact of Doge was what he wanted to do, which was, I think based on everything that's happened, was mostly to try and undermine a lot of the call it investigations into some of his companies. And it really wasn't about saving money because they didn't save money.
Oh, really?
And so, no. Everything.
I thought they cut costs and they cut...
when you say saving money, right? So the U.S. government is like how many trillions of dollars, right? And if they're saying they found, 10, 20 billion, but they didn't actually realize any of the billions they found, and that number kept getting adjusted down. And while they were doing that, other costs were going up.
They're going up.
And so the net effect is chaos and a lot of agencies that,
and there's a cost
for good or bad, they don't do what they used to do as well.
Okay.
And so if you think about IRS from a tax collection standpoint, if you think about Department of Education and a bunch of other agencies, they just don't function as they used to. So it created a lot of disruption. I don't know that it saved money.
Okay.
But it allowed certain companies to make a lot more money. And they made that money by, shutting down contracts like the one my companies had. And then reallocating it to...
Whoa. You see this kind of show where I like to have Tunji just sit down and just look him straight in the face and say, defend yourself.
Yeah.
No, but I have a question. I have a question, right?
Yeah, sure.
Specifically on the issues around Doge, right? Now, is it that there was no money to be saved? Or
there's money to be saved.
Or there was a lot of pushback politically?
So, so my job when I was in the government was... So healthcare is like this albatross on the neck of the U.S. economy. Yeah. And so the VA is a $100 billion healthcare system within its $300 billion budget. And so my job was to say, how do we deliver healthcare more effectively? How do we pay for things with different incentives? And I found opportunities that would have saved, call it $10 billion. But when we proposed it, there was resistance. When we made it all to the White House, they basically said, leave it alone.
Okay.
And so it's not that the savings aren't there. It's that anything you see as savings is someone else's revenue.
Yeah.
And those people have lobbyists. And those lobbyists make phone calls.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so when they see you coming, they shut it down. Yeah. So it's just not, best way to put this, it's not the savings aren't there, but those savings belong to somebody else. And that person is not going to give it up willingly. And so that became what I discovered on the inside. Because when I was there, the budget was only $200 billion, and only is relative, right? So it was $200 billion, and my job was to not have it, explode. But now it's $300 billion in 5 years. So, it's just really hard. It's easier to say, all right, you want to come after my savings, let's just make the pie bigger. So this is my savings alone. Come on, take your own type of thing. So that's the challenge with an effort like Doge is that, you know, unless whoever they're coming for doesn't have the political power to resist, usually it turns into a calm down. Yeah. Let's come together and figure out how to make this bigger.
But let me ask you about your current business.
Sure.
It's a venture studio.
Yes.
You said you create the business, then you look for a founder.
Yes, a co-founder.
A co-founder.
Yes.
Okay. What sectors?
Right now, the focus is inventing or sort of building out the future of future of work, health, and learning. Okay. And the context for that is we've all seen the disruption of AI. And so I think there's a need for people to understand how to work in a future where AI is present. Because a lot of disruption, particularly in white-collar jobs. And so there's, I think, opportunity to train, educate, empower people for the future. So think about businesses that could do that, or technology platforms that can do that. So that's one area we look at. Health, that's where I spent most of my time. So there's a lot to do in health across the board. Access, prevention, there's a lot to do in health. As far as learning, it's linked to work, but it's learning from the perspective of how do we take this generation of people and how do they learn? Because, you know, the historical methods of learning and how that translates into the workplace is not going to work in the age of AI, right? Because ChatGPT can like write these reports, can like basically tell you anything you need to know. So just reading a book and storing the knowledge in your head isn't as useful, I think, as it once was. And so how do people learn how to function and perform in this future that we're heading into? So those are the areas we look at. And, you know, right now, because we're small and bootstrapped, I'm sort of the de facto co-founder. And then I find other people to work with and sort of build different things. And now we've been at it for 5 years. So a lot of my work now is saying, how do I, you know, find a decent exit or a decent liquidity event?
Have you managed to exit in 5 years?
No.
Anything?
No.
Have you been running this for 5 years already?
Yes.
Oh, so when did Doge? So we were running this while you were still working in the Department of Veteran Affairs?
So I left the government in 2020 during COVID. And then, so 5 years, 2025, right? So I left, didn't immediately start building. I first started advising. Okay. And then I would advise companies so early where it's like, dude, if I'm writing the whole script from the beginning, why am I only settling for like 1 or 2% of this company?
Do it yourself.
Thank you. So then it became, all right, let me do this myself. And then so really 2022 is when we really got into building. So I'd say maybe 3 years.
So are you back in Nigeria now? Is there any business here in Nigeria?
So the connection to Nigeria is, like I said, I was born here. I'm visiting. I have a family wedding. And Dele and I went to ISI. So like, I called him a couple months ago. I said, I'm going to be around. Can I get on the show? He said, yes. So here I am. All right, but I'm not back.
You're not back.
I'm visiting.
All right, so let's tap on your experience a bit, because that's one reason why I was excited having you here. And healthcare is something that we're very serious about in Nigeria. There's been a lot of reforms around healthcare. We have a new insurance act. Not sure how familiar you are with it, but healthcare-wise, the way it works in Nigeria is if you're signed up to some kind of health insurance, you have health management. Is it health management organizations?
Yeah, health management organizations.
HMOs. So you sign up to a HMO, you get sick, and HMOs have different cadres of plans. I mean, I don't know what it's like in the US. So you go there and then you get treated. But when you speak to HMOs, they tell you stuff like, you know, the margins are pretty thin. Hospitals tell you they're not getting a lot of cash flow. Patients say their drugs are pretty expensive. Hospitals are also pretty expensive, and then the subscriptions are also pretty high. So we're at that early stages. I don't know what your assessment is of how, you know, healthcare is run in Nigeria before we even get to, you know, taking care of our veterans who I honestly don't know how they take care. I mean, they're military. I grew up going to military hospitals back then. They used to be pretty good. Yeah. But if you go to the one in Ikoyi now, bro, like, I don't know what you see there. There used to be this military hospital on Awolowo Road. It's very, very good. I don't know how good it is now. But let's just hear from you. What do you think? Oh, by the way, what are we drinking, guys? Before he responds, are we doing rum? We're doing whiskey. We did rum last week, so
we did rum last week. So yeah. I'm easy.
Yeah. Right.
I'll drink what the house is drinking as always.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm going to stick to the rum.
Oh, you started with rum. Right. Oh, okay. Oh, is this?
Yes. So I brought a gift. I try and be a nice person from time to time.
Oh, thank you.
So I brought a gift. They thought it was cigars, but it's chocolate.
Oh,
yeah,
thanks. So that's really pretty good because Arnold doesn't take chocolates.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Cigars.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So this is just this is for the house, for the guys. So
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Tunji's not here to struggle this with me.
Thank you.
Why don't you take chocolates?
No, he's playing. No,
Oh,
I eat anything.
It's everything. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. All
Sure
right,
thing.
so
Yeah,
what's your view?
So my view is definitely a very nascent industry. I think one of our companies in my portfolio called Attain, we are actually like a health coaching platform. And we just completed a pilot with Hallmark HMO here in Lagos.
Yeah.
And so what I found out through that was like how low relative to the US the premium prices were. And that obviously I think translates into what the whole healthcare sector is in Nigeria, right? So the opportunity to really come in as an international player to make your money here, I don't see that. Just like the US is the biggest healthcare market. I think the opportunity Nigeria has with healthcare is to do it the right way, right? Because typically if you don't already have entrenched forces in play that want to do it a certain way, you can actually say, what is healthcare about? Or what should healthcare be about? And I think it should be about improving people's healthcare outcomes. It should hopefully be about doing it in a way that it becomes affordable. And I think do it in a way that's scalable, right? And do it in a way that takes into account the reality on the ground. And I think some of the realities on the ground is like so many healthcare workers are leaving. Yeah. They're being attracted to the better markets where they can make more money. Yeah. And that is just creating a fundamental healthcare access issue. Yeah. And on the HMO side, because the margins are so thin, what I've noticed or what I've seen is the mistakes in the US around just funding sick care, right? So healthcare should mostly be about prevention. But in the US, most of those dollars are going towards hospital care or sick care. And so it's more of a sick care system versus a health care system because that's where the money is, right? So when you think about healthcare, it should be about prevention, preventing the illness, right? And educating people, arming people so they can actually...
Prevention?
Yeah, so they know what to do. So they know what to do. No, healthcare should not be about...
the money is.
It's where the money is, but I think if you haven't built a system yet, I think there's a chance to build a system that could invest more in prevention and figure out the right business model to make more money with prevention versus just like building hospitals and trying to make your money on procedures on drugs, which, I mean, it's capitalism. So people have made money in a lot of worse ways. But I think if by doing that, prevention is ignored, I think we end up with the crisis we're in now where the life expectancy of the Nigerian is 54 years or something very low. It's like one of the lowest in the world. Yeah. And so the impacts economically are huge because if people are dying that young, it decimates, I think, the productivity of your workforce. And then if people are sick on the way to dying at 55, I'm like, and I'm seeing some of those impacts in my business where my employees are like sick and they're in the hospital and it's tough because I think there's a better way. I think there's an opportunity to build something better, but everything is like, do we have the will to build something better? And I don't know the answer to that.
Biodun, what's your take?
Yeah, so I think you mentioned something, right? And it's a huge concern for all of us that are based here in Nigeria, right? I think our best hands in the medical field, doctors, nurses, even technicians, right, are constantly jackpying.
Yeah.
Right.
Besides that, you're even seeing people like maybe me or Arnold with different skills, jackpotting and then going into medical fields when you go abroad.
When they go abroad,
that's the easiest way to make money.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
really?
You see people going
I've seen a lot
abroad
of
and they go and learn.
leave, and then when they get to like,
nursing.
what are you doing now? I'm into nursing.
Yeah, doing nursing and stuff like that.
nursing.
They could be doctors.
But nursing is easier.
Nursing is easier, and you can make 6 figures as a nurse.
So, for me, it's like so many other things in this country, it's a crisis. Right. I mean, it's when you talk about state of emergency, that's what we need to declare. Now, I think my question to you is about technology, right? Okay. Many years ago, there was a lot of talk about telemedicine in Nigeria, right? But somehow, I don't think it really took off, right? And given the fact that we don't have so many, we have a shortage, right? Shouldn't that be something that should be pursued? And is there a reason why it hasn't worked out the way we had expected that it would? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, telehealth is an interesting issue to think about, right? In the Nigerian context, you have to think about the infrastructure costs that comes with trying to run a telehealth practice. So, the computers or the phones, constant good internet, constant good power. And so all of those costs kind of add up. Then you see on the other side, who is buying this service? And are they actually willing to pay the price that's required to cover the costs? And most of the time, the answer is no. Or the population is not large enough. And so the business model kind of fails on the unit economics of how many people can you see? Do they actually want to be seen? Because convincing people to come in front of a doctor it's a hurdle unto itself. And then most people, because there isn't a prevention culture, largely just end up saying, I'm really sick, I can't manage it anymore, let me go talk to somebody. And usually that kind of situation doesn't get helped that much virtually. You almost need to touch the person, like feel, kind of do a proper evaluation. So telehealth as a model is just really challenging to generate enough money, I think, in the Nigerian context, because you're carrying so many costs that come with, yes, you don't have brick and mortar, but sometimes the technology you need and the internet and all that stuff is more expensive than having a physical place for the doctor.
So do you think it won't ever work? Do you think it's just too expensive? Because it sounds like you're saying it's too expensive to work.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, I think everything is about who is funding that business, right? If it's venture capital, there's usually this 10-year cycle, and there's a venture scale and all this stuff that they talk about. And then you say, in this market, do you have enough consumers and enough demand that will generate the kind of revenue you need to justify a VC investing in telehealth? Like if it's a mom and pop, they're like, we're going to build this ourselves, we're going to make it available. And it's part of a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, it could work. I don't want to say never, because the costs, let me take it back. If the government, I say that very judiciously, puts in the right infrastructure, then the individual businesses don't have that high burden, right? If you don't have to think about power anymore, if you don't have to think about whatever your internet costs, if there's just more infrastructure available, then you can build a business around telehealth where your labor costs are manageable, people get the access to care they need. So it's possible. It just takes someone with the right energy and resilience.
Because I'm thinking the costs will probably lie with the insurance companies, but I don't think we are covered. I don't think that many people. I could be wrong. I don't know what the number is, but I don't know if that many people.
No, I don't think the numbers are high.
To have
I think it's definitely low single digits. If you believe the 200 million population number.
Yeah. You're talking about insurance uptake
coverage. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's about 5% thereabout.
Yeah, there you go.
From what I understand.
Okay.
Which is pretty low.
Yeah.
I mean, but how do you resolve that? I mean, is this a function of regulation, or is it a function of market design? Because where you have 50% or less of your economy pretty much formal, how do you then get the informal market?
Yeah, but see, that's what I like about what Tunji is doing. I know Tunji goes after informal
pensions,
right? Pensions, but it shows that there's something there on the insurance side.
There is, and so you've got a lot of guys. If you speak to some of these microinsurance guys, they tell you that, look, the guy is probably better off going to a chemist to get themselves treated, or probably just defer to some traditional medicine or whatever that probably works for him. So and the way healthcare works, like you pretty much know, is the more people you have within the system, the cheaper cost is. Well, technically
that's how it's supposed to work.
I don't like to use the US as a benchmark for healthcare anywhere in the world, because it's pretty expensive. Yeah, so they have their own problems with healthcare, right?
Yes, so, absolutely.
But here, the way that our healthcare is designed, what's wrong with it?
Wow.
Do you think that is it designed well? Yeah, because
are you referring to the HMOs now? The HMO system?
Our structure itself. So you have the hospitals, you have the HMOs, you also have governments with their own health insurance schemes, and then you have the insurance companies that are backing these HMOs as well. Then you have the pharmaceuticals and all that. So that design, doesn't it work?
I mean, like I said, if you're designing it for, I'd say, sick care, you could say it works. Meaning you now have an HMO if something's wrong with you. You now have a hospital that's in network with prices that are known. And your HMO kind of works with them to make sure your bills get paid and you're not stuck with a big bill. So in that sense, I'd say, yeah, it probably works. But like I was saying earlier, if you're trying to design a system to improve the health of your population, then I think there's an opportunity for improvement there. With
how?
I mean, lots of different things. Improving it means investing more in prevention. And prevention from the perspective of helping people understand, I think, what they need to do to be healthy. Understanding the early signs of disease and issues, because anything you catch early is always better. But I think most people, because we don't have that culture or the tools aren't there, you don't really seek help until you feel the pain. And if you're feeling the pain, it's usually too late. And that's everything from cancer to, bone pain, right? So it's really saying the opportunity exists to invest more in prevention. And investing in prevention could be a lot of different things. But one of those things could be education. I think there's a lot of technology now that helps people understand what their vital signs are. And even if people can't get that on a one-on-one, there could be community-based resources where it's like a shared blood pressure cuff or things like that.
But these things exist already, though.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It may exist, but then you have to ask yourself access to those things, education about when and how to use those things, right? Those are some of the gaps, right? So if an HMO exists today to literally just pay your bills when you're sick, then I don't think it's doing enough. I think it needs to invest some of that premium money into its members' prevention.
So that's the problem. They say you don't have premium money. So how do we solve the capital formation challenges in healthcare? Because just as you said, the problem is investments, right? So now you're investing in prevention, or you're investing in telemedicine, or you're investing in equipment to help diagnose diseases earlier and treat them. How do you solve that capital? Where are these guys going to get it? Because they're telling you that, look, they're not mopping up enough capital, enough money in terms of premiums, right, to really invest. So who solves that?
So it's the coverage, right?
Yeah. So who solves it? I don't know what is the coverage.
Because it's only 5%. So
I don't even think that that is the role of the HMO. The HMOs are designed to be businesses, right? Just like an insurance company, right?
Yep.
You get your premiums, you pay out a little bit, and you keep the rest as profit, right? So I don't think they have an incentive to go down the chain, right? Except we have discussions that need to be had to think about and give them incentives to go down the chain, right? Now, the reason why, we pay taxes and everything is government has a responsibility in terms of social services, right? And that's from the bottom down, from the grassroots, right? So you have all the community health centers, you have the general hospitals, right? And even because we have such a large civil service, right, across the country, right, it's also an opportunity for government to use its resources, right, to, like you said, educate people within within those spaces, right?
Okay.
But government has to invest. The private people are not going to do it if it doesn't hit their bottom line positively, right? So, and I think when we go to discussions around the fiscal space in Nigeria, we have to ask, all the resources that the government garners, what do we use it for, right? The government has to invest significantly in healthcare. I think the WHO recommends that governments should spend about 6% or so of their budgets on healthcare. And don't forget, government on 3 levels, right? Normally, we tend to identify the federal government, but that's why we have the local governments, and that's why we have the state governments, right? And I think if we have a crisis in healthcare, right, those are the points where we can attack it from. There's a private one. The HMOs definitely will be on the private side, but public health is a serious issue that any sane society should be taken seriously.
Okay, so let me ask you. Arnold, how do you create a vehicle, or how do you make this attractive to someone like maybe Arnold, who is looking at pulling private equity funds or pulling credit funds and basically looking for where to to channel those funds to? How do you make this attractive to him? So is it going to be on the back of premiums that are going to be collected in the future, so he brings the money up front? Whether it's public or private, like how do you make this?
Do you recall when the banks wouldn't cater to people with less than 5,000 naira? Right, when you had to have like a minimum balance at the banks. The banks were spending, investing in the HNIs and the professionals and everything.
Well, you couldn't open an account?
You always had like minimum balances.
Minimum balance.
Like savings, you couldn't go beyond 5K.
Right, and nobody really cared. The banks didn't really care about the retail, the micro retail, until a group of fintechs and everything started to, right? They built a business model, right, that could service in scale, right? Anybody who wants to go into that space has to be able to aggregate people in scale. If not, it's not going to work, right? So it is up to the entrepreneurs, right, to say to ourselves, you know what? Yeah, we have the HNIs, we have the professionals, 5% of them are covered, right? But don't forget, Nigeria has a massive informal economy. And I'm sure that there are millions of viable people, from farmers, from young people that work in, they don't earn a lot of money, but if we design our products, if the HMOs, right, or a particular HMO that decides to focus on that space, right, makes investments and does the work to figure out how to service these people, the people in this space, I think there's business to be done there. So the same way the banks shied away from this and then started chasing them later on, it's going to take somebody to be able to learn how to aggregate this space for healthcare. Because we've done it for investments. Now we're doing FGN savings bond, 5,000, and it generates billions every month.
Well, healthcare is difficult though, and it's slightly different because if you look at, let's take one thing, the price of drugs. Yeah. Right. When we had, for the past few years, when we had the exits of GSK and a few others, and we've seen drugs go 3, 5, 6, 10 times, especially the more complicated, even the less complicated was like paracetamol. So if as an HMO or an insurance company, whatever it is, I'm paying for this, it's now eaten into my margin. Yep. Right. So how do I then provide this healthcare where I'm buying whatever drugs, cancer drugs or gout drugs that are now expensive, but this guy is giving me micro premium? Yep.
Don't forget that.
So there's a mismatch.
Don't forget that a lot of people in that age are in a very young age bracket, right? In that space, who are not covered by HMOs, right? Many of them are very young people, and they're relatively healthy, right? It's just like insurance, right? You have 1,000 people, right? And everybody pays their premiums. By the end of the year, maybe 100 of them are going to make claims. Now you're providing health insurance to a relatively young demographic, right? And again, I don't have the answers to it, but I think it's something that can be figured out I think there's a viable market there for somebody in that space if they looked at it properly. Maybe you should, Laolu.
Like how do you fund
this? So you mentioned earlier that the margins are thin.
Yeah.
And I think because one, the margins are thin, and because it's a sick care system, when people do engage, it's really that they want drugs, or they're in the hospital, they have a procedure. And if those costs are growing exponentially, and the employers or individuals' willingness and ability to pay your premiums isn't growing as fast, what you'll actually find is that most of the market is now priced out of what you're able to offer. And as an HMO, which your business, right? So your goal is, how do I stay in business? And the way I stay in business is, hey, I cater to those that can afford I cater to those that can afford my services. And I have to cover my costs. Otherwise, I'm going to be in the red. And if you're not venture funded, you're going to shut down pretty quickly. And so I think winning in this market is recognizing that reality and saying, how do you start with those folks who can only afford, a couple $1,000 a month for their premiums? Like, what can I offer them where I'm not taking on the risk of this person showing up in the hospital and kind of blowing up my margins and blowing up my book? I think it starts there, and it's sort of saying, I'll give you some coverage, but I'm not taking on the kind of stuff that's going to cause you that you're paying me, call it 60,000 naira a year. I'm not going to take on something that's going to cause me to spend, $1 million naira on you. I mean, which if you have 100 people like that in 1,000,
then
you're out of business.
I mean, so currently, what some of them do is there are caps, right? That you can go through. But let's close this section with veteran care, which you do have a lot of experience in. So we have veterans in here as well.
Yes.
And most of us say because most of our veterans now end up in other forms of paramilitary, so they are still working.
Military health systems.
Yeah. So it's either they're is it NSDC or whatever. So
NSDC.
Yeah, so they do. So I mean, I don't know whether it's
civil defense
defense and all that. So most times you see them, taking them. So they're not well taken care of, essentially.
Yeah.
Right, and this even extends to even civil servants.
Yep.
Okay, so and you're coming from you've operated in an environment where, as much as it's not perfect, because we do watch a lot of stuff on CNN, we see how they argue about their healthcare system and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Trump has done a few things. Biden also did. Veteran health, that is. I mean, what can we learn from that here? But what can we do differently?
One, I think it starts with investing more. Right. So if you don't have a system built or designed,
we don't have the money now.
I mean, there's money.
Invest. The government invests.
So in the U.S., the government invests. The government invests, right? Like I mentioned, so you break down the $300 billion budget the VA in the U.S. has. $100 billion of that.
$300 billion for VAs.
For VA,
yes.
I mean, our annual budget here is like $5 billion.
There has to be a match with the defense budget as well, right? Because if we take defense seriously,
when you say match, what do you mean?
No, I'm not saying a match, but I'm just saying that our defense budget is what's right. So we don't really have
budget is not up to $50 billion.
No, but I'm just saying that if you have a defense budget, then you should also have a VA budget. That's what I'm trying to say, right? So,
I mean,
because that you spend so much in defense, it eventually creates veterans.
Yes.
I don't know where we are with our defense budget to say we have a veteran healthcare budget.
I don't even think we do.
The budget will most likely be in terms of pensions within the defense.
Exactly. So that's what I'm asking. That's what I'm trying to find out. What can we learn?
So the thing to learn is, so veterans are a special population, and the U.S. has an all-volunteer army, right? So you have to think about what that means. That means people aren't forced to serve. So they choose to serve, and you have to make service... what's the right word for this?
Palatable?
Nah, palatable wasn't the word I'm looking for.
Rewarding.
I didn't know what to create a sense of patriotism, right?
There's a sense of patriotism. What the word that's escaping me is sort of, you have to make service fulfilling, yes, but also you have to make it like you have to sell it to people. Like they have to want to do it.
Nigeria wants you.
Yes, something like that. Attractive, sure. Let's stick with attractive. You have to make it attractive.
I don't know, Nigeria wants you.
And the way you make it attractive is by basically saying, look, you're going to serve and defend your country. And when you're done with your service, we will take care of you We will take care of your family.
Yeah.
And that's why you should come and join the army or all different military branches. I think historically that may have worked, but I think there have been so many cycles of people who didn't necessarily have that promise fulfilled. And so there's a lot of skepticism now. And so recruitment remains a challenge for the U.S. military. And so the way you improve recruitment numbers, I think, is by taking better care of veterans. And so what you've seen both parties do is double down on their investments in veterans. And so like Biden passed the PACT Act, Trump passed the Mission Act, all of these things put hundreds of billions of dollars more into the system, right? So the $100 billion system I'm talking about is, $70 billion of it invested in healthcare infrastructure. In all 50 states, they even take care of veterans overseas. Direct delivery, right? Doctors, nurses, hospitals, the whole 9 yards. And then $30 billion is spent on purchase care, right? And that's them paying the private sector to deliver care for veterans. So all of that investment in healthcare. The other $200 billion, most of it is pensions. Most of it is, education benefits, housing benefits, just benefits. And so veterans come out of the military and they're welcomed into the VA system, and the VA provides all of these things. Sometimes it's complicated because it's a bureaucracy, but the money's there for them to get all of these benefits.
I'm just thinking, I'm saying, in a world where we have anything close to this, what sort of business opportunities exist?
You mean in America?
Yeah, if you had something close to this, like what sort of business? Is it education?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. So you heard what I said earlier: health, work,
so Arnold could just dump private equity and just turn to a government contractor.
There are defense. You mentioned defense. So the U.S. defense budget crossed $1 trillion this year, and a lot of that is spent. Some on healthcare. The military has its own healthcare system, separate from the veteran healthcare system. So
separate.
There's tens of billions in that one. Because they take care of different people. They take care of active duty and families, and that's usually younger people. Whereas veterans, it's older, sicker, catastrophically injured from just bombs and such. So it's a different population. So you do need, I think, different systems. But it's me kind of coming back to the point of investment.
Yeah.
So they've invested to try and make sure they have the right people and they're taking care of people after service, so the service becomes attractive. Because if you think about serving and you're being deployed all over the world, you're away from your family. And there's so many issues I think people deal with when they serve, separate from the physical wounds, right? So the emotional wounds. So one of the companies my studio is building is around mental health, right? And so what we see and what's known is that like every single day between 16 and 20 veterans take their own life, right? So that's
15 to 20.
Yes.
In the US.
Every day.
And so that's a serious issue.
A high suicide rate.
Yes, it's one of the highest in of any group. And so there's a reason for that. So this is
despite all the money that's been poured in.
Despite all the money, despite all the investment, because people fall through the cracks and it's hard to get the benefits because of bureaucracy. And so it creates this situation where there's still so many people, despite all the investment, that aren't getting the help they need.
Okay, let's pivot to insecurity. I want to get Biodun's views first before I come to you. So it's a subject that we haven't really touched on Drinks and Mics extensively, but I want to talk about it from a point of view of investments. We've seen, I think, over the last 3 weeks or so, Trump rhetorics around Nigeria and all that, which everybody's familiar with. And all of a sudden, we started seeing all sorts of, kidnapping, killings, and all this. I don't know. Someone was asking me, is it that we didn't know about these things before and they're now coming to the fore, or are these all new? Are these all just new or just happening freshly? And so I'm thinking, for an investor looking at this outside in, what do you think they make of all this insecurity, Biodun? Should we be worried as?
Yeah. So we talk about political risk, right? I think that Nigeria's political risk has always been high, but it is heightened further now by the spotlight that has been shone on what's going on in Nigeria by the Trump administration, right? We've always had these problems. And, this is not a political program, so we won't go too deep into it, right? But it's obvious that we haven't paid sufficient attention to it, right? And we haven't dealt with it with the seriousness that it deserves, right? We've seen a lot of movement in the last few days or the last few weeks since Trump made the announcement. Now, if I was a foreign investor looking in, would I, at this point, bring in my investments into Nigeria? The answer is no. And
really?
I was expecting that the CBN was going to increase the policy rate by at least 1%.
We're going to get to that in a bit.
No, I'm making a point. I was expecting that they would, right? So when I saw the numbers, I sat and I thought about it, right? If the political risk is heightened,
to make it more attractive,
we're not going to get any FDI. The FDI numbers have been very low.
Yeah.
Right. Now, all production is 1.4. We're aiming for 2. We're at 1.4.
Yeah.
We have to keep rates attractive for the FPIs. Because otherwise, there was no reason why they didn't do a hike. My point is that we are in a point of heightened political risk, and anyone who is looking from the outside into what's going on in Nigeria, if they were going to pull the trigger, I think they would pause a little bit and see how things play out.
Arnold?
So I think that for me, it's not necessarily FPI, but FDI.
They're not even here anyway. So.
Yeah, exactly, right. So on the FPI side, I understand your perspective, but on the FPI side, for me, it's very short-term, very liquid, very in and out, can easily go in and out. So that maybe MPR, the macro, the inflation works. But I think from the FDI perspective, from the outside looking in, you could almost argue that there's a low-level civil war going on in Nigeria. No one's really talking about it. Or no, now everyone is talking about it. And it's scary to a degree. You could even start looking at all the stages that lead to a civil war, right? And you look at Uganda, right? You look at Rwanda, to the point where neighbors were going into neighbors' homes and killing each other.
That's definitely going to happen,
right? To a degree, one could argue it's happening in certain regions. Right, and this is what the foreign direct investment is seeing. So if a multinational, because on the short to medium term, yes, macro is looking good, it's looking wonderful. We'll get the foreign money coming in buying normals, maybe buying equities if CGC sorts itself out, maybe buying equities. But foreign direct investment normally follows foreign portfolio investments. And foreign direct investment makes the Nigeria turnaround that we're seeing more stable, right? Now, whatever multinational, whatever foreign direct investment is coming in is now taking a step back.
So you think they're probably just reviewing their deal sheets now?
Definitely reviewing, because now that stability that we're seeing in our 10-year, 20-year outlook. Because if you come in now, you're looking at 20 years, right? Your outlook is, if you're a foreign direct investor, and if you're looking now and seeing all of this stuff happening in the north and coming down to the south, and you're seeing this thing increase in frequency as well, you're now thinking, hold on a minute, am I going to come into a situation that is going to turn into a Uganda or a Rwanda? At what stage of this 5-stage, they say there's a study that was taken as there are 5 stages to a civil war. And one could argue that Nigeria is at stage 2.
Really?
Right. Yes. ChatGPT will tell you in 1.5. Right. Because and the thing is, I'm sitting here and
but we've been here before, like.
So listen, I'm sitting in Nigeria and I've done the research, and I'm here and I'm local. So imagine a foreign direct investor
who is not here and who's probably more pessimistic.
And I've done this research to find out that there are 5 stages of civil war. Imagine these guys are coming in and they have this 10 to 20 year outlook. It's what happens to Nigeria in 20 years. right? What happens to my business in 20 years? What happens to the population in 20 years?
Yep.
This is something that we need to start taking seriously because it affects the stability, that the long 10, 20 year stability that we have in Nigeria.
All right, Laolu, I mean, you've lived Trump era, Trump 1.0, Trump 2, and yes, we do need to be very careful so that we don't get to all those stages.
Yes.
It's not like we're saying that we don't think it's going to be anymore. We hope there won't be. But the reality is that, there are certain stages, and when you start to see these things, and then you start to get worried. But nevertheless, or be that as it may, Trump has a way of just saying things, and sometimes he means them, sometimes probably doesn't mean. Sometimes it's deflective. They tell you it's out of the art of
negotiation, art of the deal,
out of the deal, and all that stuff. So, in this case, from your experience,
yes,
is there anything economical that you're seeing around this whole? Nigeria is a country of concern and blah. Is there any economic connotation to this that you see? I mean, from your experience.
From my experience, I would say the first question is, I think there was a comment about we've been here before. We've seen this kind of infighting. So before I left Nigeria, I vividly remember, this is even within the Yoruba group, Ife Mudakeke crisis. And there was fighting, and I heard a story, which I don't know if it's true, of a father sort of taking his grandkids and killing them because his daughter married somebody from the other side. So that's the kind of stuff that you would say, hey, that happened in Uganda, we're ready, but that was so long ago, and it did not escalate or spread. So I wouldn't take what kind of religious violence is happening right now as we're on this journey and it's inevitable. I would look at it more as, why did this attention come at this moment, right? And do we have any data to support things getting worse? Or is it more that there's just more footage now and it's on the news cycle, right? And, part of me thinks Trump's attention to this is pretext for something. I don't know what the thing is, but I don't fundamentally believe he woke up and just started caring about Nigerians being killed. Yeah, but that's my 2 cents.
So if we're hypothetically, if we were to say, okay, if there was some kind of economic interest, what would that be?
I think the economic interest could be a lot of different things, right? Dangote's refinery, as one example of he's taking business from people that used to supply Nigeria. Those people could whisper to the president and say, hey, let's go create some issues there.
This is a bit hypothetical.
Hypothetical.
Yeah.
I don't know anything. I'm not in the government anymore. So everything I'm saying now is just me talking. So it could be that. It could also be things just related to shifting the attention, right? Because they use specific words that makes this very suspicious, right? They're like, oh, there's a genocide of Christians, right? And if you think about what's happening over the last several months, it's really been about the genocide, as they claim, right? Because again, I'm trying to make sure I'm saying the right things, but the genocide in Gaza, right? And how do you shift attention from that? You have to give the world a different genocide to look at.
So do you think they're trying to shift attention from?
Again, I'm just looking at what's in front of me and saying, why would the president do this, right? From an economical standpoint, Nigeria, in relative terms, it doesn't register in the U.S. GDP scale. It just doesn't. And so it's what is the economic incentive? It could be geopolitical. Okay, China has a great interest here. Let's go mess with China. But I just feel like there are other ways to do that, right? So the thing that kind of bubbles up to the top is sort of that news cycle part of it. There was a current news cycle, and now, Nigeria and Christians getting killed is now in the news cycle, to the point where some random pastors are now on Piers Morgan. So a lot of things just feel like it's being orchestrated more for the news cycle, from my perspective, than anything that has some economic intent. Outside of the money.
What do you think is worth the attention, though?
What do you mean by that? If it moves attention away from...
It's worth the attention. It's more than it should be more than a news cycle, right? Because
considering that, you know what? At the end of the day, people are being killed.
That's the real point of this thing, right? Irrespective of whether it was Trump that said something. At the end of the day, I know for us who live in southern Nigeria, right, it almost seems like we are not sensitive to a lot of stuff that's going on in the north, right? The truth remains that Nigerians are being killed every day. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what the motivation is, right? There are parts of this country where people cannot go to their farms. We have, I think, over 3 million displaced Nigerians, right? So if we're talking about Nigeria, right? We say Nigeria's GDP is 3 point something. Inflation is 14 point something. Nigeria this, Nigeria that. There are parts of this country that are not going to benefit from that prosperity if we do not take care of this thing. And for me, that is the point. And I'm grateful to the American president for bringing it to the fore, because prior to that, we're not taking it seriously.
No, I mean, let me push back on that, right? So when the Chibok girls were kidnapped, as an example, right, that's another crisis. And the whole world had attention, and there was like push for change and all of those things. I mean, we all know how that played out. So I don't know that just shining a light on something demonstrates...
Solves it.
One, it doesn't solve it.
It doesn't solve it.
But I think the trap I would say we shouldn't fall into is letting a third party with unknown interests or purpose kind of dictate priorities. Because at the end of the day, if it turns out that they're not going to do anything and this is really about shifting the attention, then what that does is you now take in a country, a sovereign nation, to focus on a problem they may not be able to solve.
Yeah, but we can solve the problem.
We have to solve it.
Yeah, we have to solve it.
There's no question about it.
I think that it's sad that an outside party had to draw our attention to it. I think it's something that we should have been taking seriously anyway without the outside party.
So you think it's because Boko Haram and all this has not been taken seriously?
No, but I think it's serious, right? So one of the reasons I think it's not being taken seriously is comments like, we've been here before, right? It's like, we've been here before, everything's going to be okay. And I always like to see life as markets, right? So if you look at a chart, right, you have a resistance and you have a support line. And it's normally, the charts, the line is in between the support and resistance. And there's something called testing the support, testing the resistance. Yep. It keeps testing it and it keeps testing it. And one could say it's been here before, and then something happens that makes it break the support or break the resistance. And I think that, we could argue that we've been here before, and we've been here before, we've seen it before. But this is a line, whether it was a resistance or support line, that's being tested again. And you never know whether this test, the catalyst the catalyst might come as this line is getting tested. And I think because the line gets tested over and over again, we don't take it seriously because we've been here before. But I think that our job as a country, as a people, as a community should be figuring out how to not get this thing to the line before the outside catalyst, whatever the catalyst might be, comes in.
But talking about catalyst though, I mean, another commentary you probably hear is, yes, could been there before, not a good thing, shouldn't be happening. But then when you have outside forces now start to, turn a searchlight on it, and then now give it a different kind of connotation, different kind of feel. So does it help the situation or does it exacerbate the situation? Especially if, of course, again, this has just been hypothetical. Yeah. Especially if there is some other motive behind the searchlight that you're seeing. Isn't that so let me give you an example. Yeah. I've read in some texts and some articles where some of the sound bites are like, this is probably geopolitical. Of course, nobody has any proof yet. Geopolitical. This is, US and China. And that's where I was going to come to you as well, Biodun. Is this a mining warfare? Is this about, who basically controls rare earth and a lot of the mining that's going on up north? We've heard stories of airstrips in the north where, allegedly Chinese
jets
come in,
flying and
pick up mineral resources and go. We've heard that, even some of the militants are protecting that whole, illegal mining. These things are just things you read. and you see nobody has been able to catch anyone. There's no proof. So and then you see all these things and wonder, okay, so you're trying to make sense of everything. Because at the end of the day, all you're looking for is solution. You don't want insecurity in your country,
of course,
any part of the country, right?
Yeah.
And then you don't want anyone taking advantage of it in whatever guise.
Yep.
Okay. And then you also don't want people taking advantage of it from the point of view of providing, increasing insecurity in the guise of cutting away mineral resources. So difficult to really know what's true. So what exactly, I don't know what you're hearing from that mining side. And then we can now come to maybe what should government do more important. And the reason why this is very important for the economy is once you start to break economic confidence, then social confidence comes in. And then it's chaos. So it's very important that the economic confidence is kept intact. And we've had a bit of it now, most of this year. So it's very important that we have that, especially when you're approaching an election cycle. So really, what do you think?
So from my own understanding, right, we have 3 problems in the North, right? We have the issues around Islamic fundamentals, Boko Haram, right? We have the Fulani headsman issue, right? And then we have the banditry that is centered around mining, right? Different motivations, right, for each of them, but a huge impact on large swaths of the country. So I am certain that a large, if you think about what we have in the ground in places like Zamfara, right?
Mining wise,
right?
Or mineral resources.
Mineral resources, it is huge, right? And the best way for anybody who wants to take advantage of that is to destabilize the whole area, right? And that is what is happening.
That's on the mining side.
On the mining side.
Because there are 3 things.
So is this kind of linked to banditry or something?
This is banditry.
That banditry
right?
in certain areas is basically about mining. In many parts of Nigeria, it's about mining.
So how come nobody in government has come out to say, okay, you know what, authoritatively, this is what we're seeing in terms of intelligence? Is there a reason why? Because, I mean, you keep hearing these things. You keep, ready. You say, where is the official, explanation for this? And I kind of feel like if there's an official explanation,
but why? Who has the incentive to provide that official explanation?
Because we've seen again, back to we've been here before. We've seen militants basically cause an existential threat to Nigeria as a country, right?
Yeah.
And we all understood that it was the militants. Everybody knew who some of this, they even had a name, right? You knew who they were and all that and why they were bombing. And the government, so it was easy for the government to kind of provide a solution to that. Yeah. And that has, been solved for the better part of the last, how many years? 7 years, 6, 7 years or thereabout.
Not solved, but
at least contained. Addressed, basically, yeah. I mean, we've dealt with things like stealing of crude oil and all that, but contained. So why can't we get any official commentary around things around reason for banditry and beyond speculations?
I always say that the current government, when they were in opposition, they were fantastic in communication.
I've heard this a lot.
They were fantastic.
About poor communication from the
Any
current
small
government.
thing that happens, they have sent something out. They were fantastic when it came to communication. Why? Because they didn't have power, and they were trying to get power.
Aren't they communicating well now, though? I mean, these guys are all over social media spewing stuff.
In a dysfunctional society, one thing you're not going to get is proper communication. Why do they want to tell you what's going on? It's going to expose lapses if they tell you the truth about what's going on, because then you will have questions to ask. Okay, so if you know XYZ, why aren't you doing ABC, right? And again, I'll go back to this point. That's why I'm happy about the increased attention to this thing, right? I hope that the movements that they are making will lead to improvements. But prior to that attention being focused on it, not enough was being done. And I would like to make another point, Ugo, and I'll try and make this quickly. It's about a national aspiration. And Arnold might be able to relate because we are both conspiracy theorists, right? So I will go in 30 seconds, right?
In the market.
So I'll go.
Why did you just drag me in? Everyone thinks I'm normal.
I will go at this very quickly. Since July, my wife has said I should not speak about this thing. Since July, right?
You might want to listen to your wife.
since July, right?
Yeah.
There has been a comet, interstellar comet 3 Atlas, right? Which everybody said was so big and it had all kinds of characteristics that were unusual, right? But NASA has said it's no threat to Earth, right? It's a normal comet, it's not going to hit us and everything, right? And we always have this conversation, right? That if a comet was a threat to the world, right? Coming at us, as a country, as Nigeria, what are we going to do? The president is going to call the Chinese president, is going to call America. What are you guys doing, right? We have to aspire to be a country that can deal with this problem. If not, why are you a country?
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Right? It's not okay to say that parts of the country, people cannot go to their farms. It's not okay to say that 19 people were abducted, 20 Nigerians. It's not okay anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And if we make excuses for it, which we have done over the years, or we have just turned a blind eye to it, then can we really, really, talk about the things we talk about seriously, about growth, about economic development, when parts of the country, our country, Nigerians, are not
safe,
part of it, are not benefiting from that. Sorry, Laolu, you're going to say.
No, I was going to say a lot of things, but I'll start with this, right? No nation is perfect. And
sure.
I think with this additional spotlight, you gotta have to do the scenario, like play it out, right? If the intent was not to intervene, so the attention has existed to do a couple of things. One of which is to sort of reduce investor confidence in this market and its potential to move forward. Because if you cause people to think that there's some level of instability that will make running a business in this country a problem, you're going to take a second look.
But isn't there some level of instability?
I'm not saying there isn't a level of instability, but if you believed everything you read in the papers or saw on the news about the American systems, I think you would be concerned at a level if America was still a nascent economy, right? So everything from the rates of crime or issues around poverty and homelessness and all those things, you'd be like, what is this? And so my concern is that if things have not become materially worse, but just because it's now in the news more, it causes people to say, hey, I'm not going to invest, or I'm not going to visit, or I'm not going to participate in whatever is going on there because I now hear that place is dangerous. I think the additional spotlight doesn't bring any benefits with it because what you get is just talk and no action. There's no intervention. It's just talk. And then the reality on the ground is people now feel less safe, or maybe because it's religious, they now kind of go at it a little bit harder. And so I look at it from the perspective of what is the real thing we're getting beyond the attention? I haven't seen it yet. What is the impact of the attention? The impact of the attention is probably hesitation. I haven't been in Nigeria since 2014, right? So it's 11 years. And part of the thing was people are getting kidnapped. So I'm like, all right, I don't want to deal with that. And so I'm not saying people aren't getting kidnapped, but it's not like they're not driving and they're just grabbing on the streets. Yeah,
But they are. That's the thing. They are, right?
Okay, so maybe not a great example, but the point is, it hasn't been to the level that it would cause me not to show up or think about the potential here. And I think if there's a heightened sense, I think about me and my business, right? If I have a heightened sense that, oh my goodness, there's about to be a religious outbreak, what's that going to be? Should I stop investing in talent here? Should I look elsewhere, right? And I think for me, until it's literally happening, I will keep investing. But that's
for me. So I understand
where that we're all correct, right?
Yeah.
At the same time,
exactly.
I mean, that's sort of like the feeling I get here. So yes, we've got insecurity. It has to stop. Whether or not Trump is making a meal of it or making noise about it or serious about it, the fact is there is insecurity.
We must find a local solution to it.
It just gotta stop. So if we had the balls to stop insecurity or reduce it drastically in the South, right, in the creeks, then Boko Haram has been with us for better part of the last 10, 15 years or thereabout, right? So by now,
16 years.
Yeah, we shouldn't be hearing about it like it should have gone. Why should we be having banditry anyways? Why should we be containing with illegal mining if it does exist, which a lot of people will say it exists. So why are all these things happening? Why are Christians being killed? Why are Muslims being killed, right? So that on its own is a fact that needs to just end because it's just not good for business. It's not good for the economy. And so the fact that is happening, let's even assume that maybe the West or some country is taking advantage of it. Well, we created it for them to take advantage of it. So whether I like it or not, it just has to be dealt with. So we're kind of right. At the same time, everyone is correct. I think you want to move on. I get your point. No, I get your point clearly. I get your point. No. Of course, we got to move on. But it resonates with me. I agree. Yes, there's kidnapping, people have been murdered and all that. And to your point, it happens everywhere, right? So there are certain places in New York that you can go to. Yeah. You're probably, the chances of you coming out normal is pretty low. Yeah. It's not just and several parts of the world. So I understand that part, right? And that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. I get. So, but here, the issues are real.
No, but it's not happening in New York to the level that it could destabilize the country.
Is real.
So that's why
that's what. So intense, his point is that's why that's all about.
It's happening to the point that it can destabilize the country. It can destabilize.
So which is Biodun's point as well. That okay. So yes, it's happening. Like again,
it is
Jonathan
destabilizing the country. Rather,
we at that point officially. There were some towns, cities that were basically taking over.
Yeah, local governments.
We were at that kind of level. We probably are close to that now, but we're not. I don't know of any city or town that maybe I'm just not basically taking over
as educated.
But it stopped schools. They stopped education. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
I mean, back then, towns were completely taking over.
Yeah,
but it was almost like a section.
Some Nigerians in our country are paying protection money to be able to go to their farms.
Agreed. Correct. Correct.
To avoid being abducted or killed or their houses
even
burnt.
People in some towns in that are not into farming, like regular state capitals and all that. It's happening. But let's I guess the message here is that government just needs to deal with insecurity whichever way, whether it's the banditry or kidnapping or
illegal mining
or even whether it's foreign interest. They just got to deal with it because that's why they're elected anyway.
Comments.
Markets got to go on. Economy has to move on. Don't forget the comments. So but let's kind of something else I wanted to touch on before we go into markets is jobs. And I think I was reading, there was some report that came out. Let me see if I can have that report where I think kind of says 1.5 million Nigerians now work remotely for companies in the US and in the UK. Should we be worried about that?
No. I mean, I have an entire business model around that. So I wouldn't worry about that.
Doesn't that make hiring for someone like Arnold more expensive?
I mean, but at the end of the day,
more difficult.
And tax collections, where are they getting paid? Are they getting paid
here?
They
pay taxes here.
They pay taxes.
Taxes is based on jurisdiction.
That was coming for them from
exactly.
Collections.
There you go. He is.
Collections,
He is 25%.
To think Taiwo is not the FIRS chairman. Like he's being blamed for everything now.
It's just the consultants, though.
I guess that's the communication thing, right? He's basically
a chairman.
He's a taxman. But right now he's like the poster boy for.
He's the poster boy. I mean, to answer your question, I think there's high unemployment. And if you have the opportunity for talented people to earn global wages here in Nigeria, I think that's a big opportunity, even if it does raise your hiring costs on your end, because at the end of the day, that's bringing more income to the folks that are here. Hopefully, it raises their standard of living and people around them.
Yeah.
And so, I think all those things are good things. And so, if it creates additional inflation, maybe take a second look. But from my perspective, if people can stay here, earn a global wage, and sort of lift themselves and others out of poverty, I think that's a good thing.
I was watching, I think it was a video on social media on Tony Limelu. It was was it Bloomberg event or something, and he was talking about this. And I think his own point of view is the world needs to see Africa as the next pool of future workers or labor. Of course, by virtue of our population, young population and all. And that, it's no longer about grants. So there needs to be some kind of global understanding and global action around empowering the youths of Africa, because the youths of Africa are basically going to be the one providing jobs around the world. So is it in terms of skill acquisition, in terms of artificial intelligence, in terms of training and all of that? But how does Nigeria position itself for that future?
I'm going to sound like a broken record. I think the government has to invest in the infrastructure to support it. Government. If not government, then
what someone can Arnold do?
Someone has to figure out. Someone has to then figure out a business model where it makes sense to do that. And what I mean by that is, what is the source of capital that says I'm going to invest in the infrastructure? Because some of my headaches with employing Nigerian talent is, every day it's like, my network is bad, I can't join this meeting. Or some other issue that's related to infrastructure, right? I can't make it to this place because of this or that. And then
which we don't know if it's true or not, though, because network is, we have network problems,
Well, fair. But so my take on it is, if I'm a global party that wants to build a business, why would I come here? And the country, the here, has to be attractive enough to take out some of the issues that I'm trying to solve for, right? So why would I come to Nigeria other than someone who has an affinity for Nigeria? I come here because the labor is priced right, because the labor is talented and can get the job done. And some of it is the time zone isn't too far away, because why Nigeria versus India? Well, Nigeria is 5 or 6 hours from the East Coast. India is like 10.5 or 9.5 hours, right? Just coordinating meetings and getting things done. It's a challenge from that perspective. And so for me, I found the sweet spot of talented people who are culturally inclined and can deliver. Because when I hire people, it goes beyond just tech workers, right? So my product managers, my customer service folks, can go down the line and staff a whole team to deliver a service or a product to the US from here. And so for me, it's an opportunity for the country to say, what are those jobs of the future we're going to invest in the youth? Because if you want to address insecurity, it comes through education and employment, right? So those that are kidnapping and doing all these things, if they have a different path to generating income, I think they'll pick that path versus the one of violence, right? So I think the challenge of saying, oh, look, they said we're violent, let's focus on that and not actually focus on growth and lifting people out of poverty, is that if you focus on what I consider not solvable, which is chaos and violence, because it's the world, then you're chasing something you can't fix. And what I think you can fix is growth. Get people more jobs, get more money in people's pockets, get them educated, get them to think critically. Because if you can take more of your population into that, critical thinking, money in their pocket, skilled people, I think you'll find less undereducated, unemployed people that you can convince that banditry or some sort of violence is the way forward. And so for me, I'm just growth. How can we grow? How can we make more money? How can we then take the money to get into the political system to control some of these outcomes? Because I do think a lot of what we're seeing is political and not just it's not organic. I don't know where the politics are from.
But these things normally come from two things, right? So it's high unemployment and young population. So it's might not necessarily be not political, but it could also be as a result of the system. So it's no jobs and it's a young population.
Yeah.
Right. So, which I guess what you're saying about and what Tony Illumina was saying about being able to see Nigeria or Africa as an exporter of labor works to that extent. But it also means, but chaos and unrest can also be fixed, can be solved.
It could be fixed in certain contexts. In most homogeneous contexts, you can fix it. I think
what does that mean? Sorry.
So what I mean is like China or Singapore, a lot of places where you don't have this kind of chaos and violence, you have a significant majority of the population are like the same group, or they see themselves as the same. I think in Nigeria, 360, like just this, again, former British colony with a lot of different people that were just not building a community together. And we're now left to continue that. And I think it's just inherently difficult to avoid chaos and violence, right? There's ethnic divisions, there's religious divisions, there's fanatics, they're conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, so because
it's just like this is a recipe for chaos. It's not at them, but in the context of this is a recipe for chaos.
No, so
you just have to build.
I'm actually going a different direction.
Okay.
Yeah. So my direction basically, So I want to go a lot more positive direction, right? And my direction basically is okay. So if you've got China, Japan that has aging population. China also has an aging population. US has, population that
Europe,
probably Canada. You have all these countries. And they are essentially looking at Africa and you're saying, God damn it, these people have young Nigerians. And to Tony's point is, how do we use this to attract capital from these guys? That's the point. So what do we need to, should we get them to fund education system? Should we get them to fund skill acquisition? Because at the end of the day, think about it, you're providing a workforce for the world.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's new, because I kind of think that's sort of like what India did. India started by investing a lot in its own educational system to get to a level where, a lot of all those global dollars started pouring in. Yeah. And we are even a lot better. I think our English is better. I think we're in a better time zone and all that. So what do we need to do to attract this global funding? Biodun?
Ugo. So guys, honestly, we used to have a fantastic set of universities, federal government, state governments, right? I went to a federal government college, right? Even the state schools were excellent many, many years ago. Grammar schools and stuff like that, right? And I do not agree that for the development of our human capital, we have to look for any kind of investment from outside. The world has given us the tools through technology. I believe that government has a responsibility. And I know we keep saying government, but they collect our money, they collect our taxes, right?
They can't do it all.
No.
They have to.
They cannot do.
They have to do the most important things.
They cannot do it all.
Yes.
I'm 100% with you on that. But what are the things that they need to give up in order to do the things that are required for the growth of this country?
Why is Harvard not setting up a campus in Nigeria?
We don't need Harvard.
That's just an example. It could be any school. Why? Why is Facebook not setting up a training school for AI developers? Where you know that a lot of the young developers are going to be from here anyway. So why is that not happening?
Why are we not seeing constant
I guess you tell me why they are there.
No.
Leave Nigeria.
Listen.
They were here,
20,
they left,
30, 40 years ago, University of Ibadan. Let's go to the north.
I don't want to. Let's just go.
BUK. We had these things, right? And we threw it away. And we have the foundations for it.
Okay.
Right? And we have to insist on building. Do you know the number of Nigerians who went through the public school system, who are doing fantastic things abroad?
And that's a good point. So you still have Nigerians who went through this so-called poor public school system that we have.
It wasn't poor then.
Wait now, today. I'm talking about 5 years ago. 5 or less than 10 years ago.
And they're doing fantastic
and they're still doing very well.
Yeah.
You've got people who, like I just said it now, where else you see someone who read economics or business management or accounting or some, social science course, and then that person or he or she goes to the US, does different levels of nursing, excels, and start to develop. I mean, you've seen that, haven't you?
Absolutely.
Or you've seen somebody who probably came out with a low grade in a very low grade university as well, right? And then goes outside this country, racks up 4 or 5 masters, PhD, perhaps maybe because the incentive is to get papers. I don't know, but you've seen that happen, right? So my point is,
our doctors,
so
doing well abroad.
Yeah, exactly, and they went through the same system. So as bad as it is, and that's what I'm saying, as bad as the system is here, because I mean, we can spend all day criticizing what we have, and I really don't think it's a lot of value. When we just spend all day, because it's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Yeah, it's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
So the point is, and because I was watching that post, and I'm like, I mean, it's kind of making sense, right? So why are you setting up a lot of the constructs of the future elsewhere?
Yep.
And you're ignoring the labor force of the future. Like, where's the mismatch? So who's gonna be the one lobbying for things like that?
Some people don't know.
Yeah,
right?
And the thing is that whether you like it or not, this thing all adds up. Whether it helps with insecurity, whether it helps with ensuring that you have quality elections in the country, healthcare, it does, because at the end of the day, if Trump wouldn't or Z wouldn't will be different, will act differently if he knows Facebook, Microsoft, and all these guys have major investments in Nigeria or Chinese have it. I kind of feel like how they see Nigeria will be different. So you're not going to just come on TV and say, like, what was it called Nigeria? Is it a useless country? What's that thing? That's what they said about Nigeria. Like disgrace country. You're not going to be hearing things like that. And so that's my point. So we do have solid workforce. I think so. I
don't disagree. I'm investing in the workforce.
Exactly.
But
what do we need to do? Like, I don't want to, and it's not government. So let's even talk about narrative pushing. I'm sorry, Laolu. I'm very passionate about this.
It's a serious
subject. What I would say is this. Look, so in the, call it 2020, a lot of these companies were coming. So Facebook, Microsoft, all these companies were like establishing things right here in Nigeria. And then all of a sudden they start exiting. Right? And then GSK and all these companies were like, hey, we're done. And now we're getting all this stuff from the tax man, like tax. So I'm looking at it and just saying, without having all the details, what Nigeria would need to do is make itself more attractive for these businesses to say, yes, I want to invest infrastructure. I want to invest in the population because I know my future profits are going to be protected. So ask yourself, why did they go to Ireland? Right? All the companies, Apple and all these stuff, and put stuff there. Their tax benefits, right? And so I look at it and say, if I'm Nigeria, if I'm not going to invest in the people, and I want to make it attractive for foreigners to invest in the people, to work for them, then you have to make stability a priority. You have to make the margins make sense for them to make that investment. Because if I think something is going to go wrong in 10 or 20 years, I'm not going to invest in the people because I think something's going to go wrong.
Which now takes us back to that.
Kind of.
We're talking about that sticky money that will stay.
It would stick, right? Because the thing I saw was like they came in and then they left, right?
And it cost them so much to do that, right?
Exactly.
And it's like, so do I want to pay that? Do you know? Yeah. Do I want to pay that in 20 years?
But I kind of feel like there's something in here for a lot of us, like whether it's private sector or people who interface a lot with investors. Yeah. I, as much as we some would say, like you said, communication from the government has been very poor about the good things about Nigeria and all that. I think private sector communication too is poor, don't you think so? I mean, our ability to convince investors to come in here with that, sticky money, not hot money.
Yeah.
It's kind of poor.
Look,
we're probably not even confident ourselves. So invested in here. Sure. Let alone tell the guy
who has options.
Yeah. Which is just,
at the end of the day, it's like, so I look at it and say, yeah, because I'm not in the Nigerian equity market. I'm not, right? Because I'm in a mutual fund here or there, but not like actively. And the reason is because, so one of my friends is, and he's like, and my take on it was, if I kept my money in a high yield savings account, my dollars in a high yield savings account, in that time, in 10 years, I have more money at no risk. I have better returns at no risk than if I invested in even things I've done 2 or 3 times, just literally because of the currency issue, right? So I look at it and say, why would a company, why would anyone want to make that investment here? You have to give them a reason, because they can put their money and their attention and their effort elsewhere in all the other countries in the world. And I think the perspective of saying we have a lot to offer here in Nigeria, but so do a lot of other people. And so how do you make Nigeria more attractive to those people who have options? I think that perspective, that's the question that needs to be answered. I think it starts with definitely lower taxes and better infrastructure.
I think you're right. I think the private sector can also do more, right? We can make a bit more. We can talk about it a little bit more. Talk about the benefits. For example, what you're doing with exporting labor, right? Think about how
exactly
cheap labor is.
People are not saying that
compared to the world standard.
I've heard a lot of
this is not new.
I know someone who is active in the US healthcare market, right? He basically does a lot of contract jobs for US veterans and has a chain of clinics and hospitals and all that stuff.
Yep.
And his admin support
is here.
Is Nigeria. He basically said, what the heck am I spending so much on admin support in the US when I can have it? And so he came here, sets up a number of doctors and Medicare personnel. Yeah. Basically had an entire building and their house there and admin support. And there are a lot of people doing that. So, but nobody, but they're not hearing that. That's part of what I'm saying.
Yeah, they don't want the tax break.
They don't want the tax break.
So my question, my question to Laolu, right? Because especially for the younger viewers of this podcast, right, is what kind of skill sets do you look for? I mean, what kind of demand, right, is there for their skills? What should they be looking for? What should they be looking at?
No, so we generally build technology-enabled companies. And that means on the technical side, folks who can do front-end, back-end, basically full-stack engineers, right? Which it's fairly technical, so not everyone can do it.
ChatGPT can do that these days.
I mean, they keep saying that, but the same AI that writes your code also plants bugs and backdoors in it. So, be that as man, healthcare is so regulated that any risk can kind of take you out of business, like for generations, because of the liability that comes with it. So I generally just still stick with my human developers, enabled with AI, but I'm not handing over the keys anytime soon. That's just my take on it. But to answer Biodun's question, I think the skill sets vary, but it's kind of everything you need to run a back office, right? So if you're running a business, you need accountants, you need legal, you need all of those pieces. Now, as a business owner or a founder, you can staff those from anywhere. I choose to staff it from here, right? So we find the right people, we give them the training, but I'm being intentional.
No, but you're being intentional because you also find value there. And what's that value?
The value is that I have a US audience or market that pays the rates there, and
you have the local cost.
I have a local cost here.
Yeah. So what's I know that. That's labor arbitrage. Yes. Yeah. But what's the value in the labor here that you're seeing? So why are you hiring here despite the challenges? So why here? Is it language? Is it a skill?
It's all the above. Think about what it takes to be a talented professional in Nigeria. The resilience you must have, the stuff you've dealt with. Like one of the reasons, like I haven't been back in so long is because it's like traumatic even. There was a day and all I could accomplish in that day was fill my tank and get money from the bank. And I was exhausted.
It's not like that anymore now.
I know, but I'm saying, so that's the context, right? So if you can like function in this society, I think you have I think what it takes to be an awesome person.
I like that.
And so that's the reason. That's the value I see, is that someone who has figured out how to work in this environment, right? Whether it's supporting a local business or another international business, I want to find that person.
Yeah.
I want to give them the incentives to work for me, and then I want to kind of sort of help them like inspire other people to do what they do. So whether it's a product designer, like one of my co-founders is a great product designer, high school dropout. He dropped out of college, but in Nigeria.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's one of my co-founders.
High school is secondary school hero.
Secondary school, yes. So I said college. He dropped out of college. But the context is he is such a talented product designer and product manager, right? Which is not even like coding. It's just designs great products and builds stuff. And he's like training other people to do what he does. So I saw the talent. I said, you know what? I'm going to invest. And we worked together on a couple of things, right? So this isn't just, I'm one person. But the context is the value's there because the people, if you find them and you find the right ones, they're awesome. I can put them up against anyone else in the world, and I have, because my companies have tried to hire developers elsewhere. And the value here is that I don't pay as much. I got people that work as hard and deliver great products.
You talk a lot, though.
I pay well now. I'm fine.
So, Laolu, just one question along the same line, right? So, because you have origins in Nigeria, right?
Yes.
You would naturally look this way.
Yes.
Now, for those young people here, right, how do they find other companies, right, that do not have, where the founders or people connected to companies don't have origins in Nigeria?
Platforms for that. That's simple.
They're different platforms. Yeah. But please, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I mean, there are different platforms, is a short answer. So there are people who are not Nigerian that hire talent in Nigeria a lot for a lot of different things. And there are platforms where they do that. And I have staff that have worked for companies in different parts of the world.
Paul or something. They're even on some of this freelance.
There are a lot of different freelance platforms. I'm making so I don't do more. I do less freelance now. I do more. I hire people as employees.
Okay.
And they're part of the integrated U.S. Nigeria team, delivering a service or a product.
So how do you deal with healthcare?
In what sense?
For those kind of employees. So do you subscribe to Nigerian healthcare system?
So for them, yes, I do. So they asked. I looked into it. I think Reliance was the one they wanted, so we pay for their healthcare. Just incredible how much opportunity you have in Nigeria, guys. So let's just switch to something else before we go. Whether in case you didn't know, we've done 90 minutes already.
Oh wow!
Yes. Exactly.
Wow.
My job is to keep on.
How many more minutes do you have left?
So I mean, what do we do? Maybe like 10 minutes. Let's talk macros. NPR out.
Yeah.
It's still talking about, Nigeria and its attractiveness. Last week we were excited about inflation numbers, 16.05%. Arnold was seated where Biodun is, and he was basically beating his chest and saying it's going to be like 200 basis.
Yeah.
And I kind of like joined his bandwagon.
Thank you. Thank you for supporting me.
Supporting regrettably, but this is my guy, so I support. Because I usually don't agree with Arnold. I don't know why I agree with him. Because Tunji wasn't here.
Moment of weakness.
Yeah. So I'm like, jeez, should I agree with Arnold? But Arnold's got it right a few times. But this time around, 200 basis point didn't happen.
Yeah.
100 didn't happen. 50 didn't happen.
25 didn't happen.
It was basically stable.
5 didn't happen.
Arnold, why did this happen? I'm going to come to Biodun debate and you as well, but let me get Arnold's point.
Yeah.
What happened?
Okay,
I mean, you're seeing this Cardoso giving a speech.
Yeah. I was shocked. I was watching it live. I was shocked. But so I always thought that there were two options, right? But none of my options actually happened. None of my options happened. So not always, but after a while you realize that, okay, we all knew that inflation in December was going to be strange, right? Because we had the re-indexing, whatever term you want to use, of inflation from last year. And then NBS rejigged the numbers from December 2024, and then we had 100 basis points drop in inflation.
It wasn't
right?
rejig. It was what's it called again, Billy?
Is it rebase?
Rebase. Yeah, rebase. So it means the right economic term. Rebase. So December was always going to be a weird one. My thinking is the central bank was worried about what that number would look like in December. I don't think anybody thinks that MBS will massage the December numbers. So if they don't massage the December numbers, we can expect a strange spike in inflation, but we don't know what it is. And so from that perspective, in my view, I think the central bank decided to keep it unchanged. But going back a few days, you realize that because of this strange spike that might happen, they could have done a couple of things, right? And I had two scenarios play out in my head, which none happened, but I'll explain the scenarios. One was have a massive cuts on the NPR, and then keep the corridor unchanged, right? So the corridor is SDF and SLF, is deposit rates, which is where the central bank pays banks to park cash, and then lending rates, which central bank lends to banks. Or they could have cut NPR by, but that was my first scenario was a nice big cuts with NPR and then keep the corridor unchanged, or cut the NPR a little bit and then expand the NPR, expand the corridor. Which none happened. What they did was what we call it reshaping the corridor. So
we saw plus 50 minus 450.
Plus 50 minus 450. So the central bank is willing to pay banks 22.5% to leave cash with them, which before it was 24.5%. So they're paying them less. So that means it's saying go out there and maybe go out there and lend, right? Yeah. And then they've increased to 450, which means they what was I saying? SDF, SLF. So they
So they are lending to banks at 27.5%.
Yeah. So I mean that's what happened. I didn't see that coming. It was a shock, but I'm excited because it's still. I like that NPR is higher. I like that NPR is stable because for me, I was always worried that if they cut too fast, something happens to the Naira 2026. I think I mentioned that. So if a lot of economists were saying over the next year, there might be 1,000 basis point cuts over 2026, which was a risk to the Naira. So that's leaving it unchanged still gives the Naira stability, still keeps Nigeria attractive.
Yeah, I mean, you were more hawkish.
Yeah.
So the project said that they kept it stable because you wanted it to go up.
So for me,
despite what manufacturers are going through.
No. Sorry,
I wanted it to go up.
I made a mistake. So I thought they would reduce, not increase by 100 bips, right?
Okay.
But there are reasons, right? I think a bit more practical, right? I agree to a large extent with what Arnold has said, right? But I think that they're more practical in the sense that it's more about the exchange rates, right? I think
it's not about, or it's more about.
It's more about exchange rates, right? I think they look at oil production, stock at 1.4 million barrels, right? Heightened political risk, right? Whether we like it or not, issues around this tax CGT, which is basically spooking a lot of investors, right?
Yep.
And they're saying to themselves, we cannot afford to lose the gains we have made now. So let's keep this thing at this rate until we're able to figure out how to move forward from where we are. So I think it's more practical about ensuring that we continue to get FPI flows and do not jeopardize the progress that has been made with the Naira. So that's my take on it. I think it's basically a practical step from the CBN.
No, I'd agree with Biodun. And because my business sort of is impacted by rates in the sense that
Wicked Naira is good for you though, no?
I mean,
that's what I thought.
His revenues is what a business model.
Stop putting me
what
on
a
the spot.
business model, man.
But the context of stability is like there are all these variables now.
Yeah.
And you didn't probably want to throw another one in there. So I think keeping it steady or holding, and then you're not risking whether it's Naira appreciation or devaluation. That's as a new thing people have to worry about. So as of right now, I would say things were going down on the rates, and they start ticking back up. So I'm just watching it now and trying to figure out what is that catalyst.
Salary payments look like?
This guy.
But Laolu,
what's gonna be the catalyst that moves it closer to 1,000 or 2,000? That's right. My perspective now is like, what's gonna move it one way or the other? Because I need to prepare for that.
So, aren't we seeing some form of interest rate bifurcation here? Yes, I can understand that this has got a lot to do with forex. Probably even got a lot to do with money supply. There's a whole lot of money supply out there. We're discussing this we have this WhatsApp group, and we're talking about what had happened. But then you're seeing lending the rates that automobiles rates, treasury bills rates, basically falling. Inflation in quote 16.05%. Savings deposit rates also low. Fixed deposit rates not as juicy as it was. Pretty still sticky depending on how much you're depositing. But then lending rate is still at 35%, 34%. I mean, outside in, where do you see growth coming from? Like, what's going to drive growth now? Because this rate is going to be this way till February, I think. I think the next meeting is in February. So, I mean, we're all partying in December, right? January reality hits. So, where is that growth going to come from?
So, are you thinking the high lending rates are holding back growth?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
because a lot of the base effect impact that we've seen on GDP growth rate over the last, this year. I don't know if you're going to see that next year. So the real growth, where is it going to come from?
One, I don't know. Just be clear. So I'm speculating. I'm speculating. I mean, I think growth comes from people who have the capital making a decision.
Foreign capital, like you?
It could be. I mean, if you're thinking locally, well, local people also have the opportunity to invest outside, right? So don't just think all local capital is trapped in this market. And so my take on it is, if the lenders have decided that they're going to keep the rates where they are and their book of business is fine, they're not going to force them to change that. I think those with capital that don't need debt are those who can come in and say, here's an opportunity that all it needs is capital. And because my capital is a lower cost to me than someone who has to borrow it, I'm going to make that investment. And then you have to ask yourself who can do that locally. And then who not only who can do it, like who's foreign, but why would they want to do it, right? And I think the risks that we talked about earlier are still there. And so it becomes a harder question to answer as far as where's the growth going to come from? Who's going to make that investment? Who could otherwise park their cash somewhere else, making, whatever the interest rate is, or in other markets, and putting it here outside of someone with an affinity for Nigeria. I think it's a question that needs to be answered. Otherwise, you're basically saying, why would this be the most attractive place to put capital? And I think the questions we've talked about throughout the show that we don't have answers to make it challenging to make that case, other than someone who's just committed to the fight.
So I also think Nigeria becomes even more attractive to foreign portfolio investors if you compare it to other African countries. So African countries are going through this wave of cutting, right? So Ghana's cut 650 basis points this year. They might cut another 100, 200 tomorrow because inflation is at 8%. And the rest of the world, the rest of the continent's cutting. And if you think, which I think the Fed most likely cuts in December, because jobs are still in the lowest they've been since 2010 in the US. So Fed needs to cut. So this pushes US yields low, so makes US and mortgages in the US, delinquency mortgages are all over the place. So borrowing costs have to go down. So if borrowing costs, so that carry trade, right? So borrowing costs in the US goes down. So it makes Nigeria attractive. And then we reprice. So Omo reprices because NPR has stayed. Because if you look at our secondary markets, Omo, Treasury bills, bonds, they've been pricing in at 200 basis points, whatever basis points for today.
200 basis point what?
So the Treasury bills and bonds were pricing 200 basis point cuts today.
Yeah.
But this does because period to period, from last cut to this cut, treasury bills collapse, treasury bill yields collapse, and bond yields collapsed. You're going to get a repricing. So you're going to get treasury bill. You should get a repricing. You should get yields come back up from treasury bills to OMO to bonds. So now Nigeria versus, because now Ghanaian yields, as much as Ghana's doing amazing because of gold, Ghana trade balance has doubled, and Ghana got upgraded by the S&P a couple of weeks ago, and the rest of Africa is looking good. But rest of Africa yields are now not as attractive as Nigeria's yield. So Nigeria now becomes more competitive as a foreign portfolio investor.
From an FPI point of view.
From an FPI perspective.
So Biodun, now, riding on Arnold's point, it kind of looks like, as much as this is not a credit market for manufacturers and a lot of this is basically what it looks like. This is now an economy for FPIs, at least for now.
For now.
But is this also an economy for equity investors? Is this what it looks like? Or is it for, because we're also seeing a lot of, and I say this on the back of two things. One, we're seeing a lot of capital raises, which we discussed two Drinks and Mics episodes ago. We're seeing a lot of, we've seen about, I think roughly 5 trillion or so being raised in equity in this market. Then we're also seeing probably even more being raised from commercial papers and all that. So is that the sort of market that we're seeing now? Juxtapose it with something else that's probably an instigator, which is high money supply. Money supply is north of 120 trillion or so. A lot of the, intervention money still flowing in the economy. A lot of the arbitrage that happened with the FX devaluation, that money is still somewhere in the economy flowing and all that. So, and then, we don't really know what the CBN knows, because we don't have their data.
We don't see.
They're probably seeing data that we don't see.
Very good point.
Yeah, so we're basically just trying to think through this. But is this an equities market? Is that what we should be looking at? When I say equity, I'm not talking about equities market.
Oh yeah, no.
So for people looking for funds, you're looking at manufacturers, and I'm saying, manufacturers, this is not a market for you, because they're basically telling you, don't go borrowing.
Yeah.
So what kind of investment should be looking for?
I'd love to add to your answer.
So let me answer part of it, then I'll leave the money supply part to Arnold, and you can add to it. So at some point, right, and here's where communication comes in, right? So from a CBN point of view, first of all, I would say that we are indeed going to pivot, right, from a focus on taming inflation to growth. We have to, right? If not, what is the point of all the work that has been done? What is it for, right? We cannot continue to rely on FPI flows forever. It's not going to sustain us. If, God forbid, something goes wrong, that money is flying out in 2 seconds. So we have to quickly pivot. But I think what the CBN can do now is to start with the signaling to that effect, right? And that's why I say communication is pretty poor with this government, right? Businesses are going to get a lot of money from the banks next year. The banks have raised a lot of money, and even despite the fact that the MPR has stayed where it is, I suspect that if you look at how much banks are charging in interest rates, we'll even have started to see a decline, because banks are sitting on a lot of their own capital, which they can deploy to the economy, right? And I believe that a lot of growth is going to come from that 2-point-something trillion that was raised from the banks, right? I think it's even more than that since 2024.
Yeah, probably more. Yeah.
Right? Now, for equity, right? For me, I think people have made, a lot of money from the markets. And I know you don't want to talk about the markets, and people have taken their profits. I think many people who have been equity investors in Nigeria are somewhat richer than they were a year ago, right? And for those who are willing to take the risk, they will deploy money into other places like commercial papers and real equity for businesses, right? But from an institutional point, which is really where we can get, the kind of flow quantum,
Volume.
right?
Mm.
Nigeria is attractive in certain segments, right? But just the flow is just not there. I find that even private equity people are raising money, they're raising high interest money. So I know some people in private equity space that are raising money they're raising debt. And I wonder, why is that? Is it that people are not participating the way they should in risk capital, right? The amount of money that our pension funds have in private equity funds is tiny, right? So at the end of the day, Nigeria is attractive so this is the answer. Nigeria is attractive from an equity perspective, but I do not see a lot of flows coming in from there. We're going to have to rely to a large extent on lower interest rates next year and the banks lending to businesses to grow.
Arnold?
Yeah, so I think that, and I think I talk about this asset class quite a lot. I think there's a private market that we are starting to take advantage of, not just Nigeria, but the continent, right? So, private equity was huge and is still huge, but there's a private debt market private credit, private debt market that has been brewing and I think explodes in 2026. We're seeing the brew. So, and the funny thing is when you look at the West, developed markets, private credits, private debt is blowing up, right? With the whole issue with the car, there was a car business that's a bunch of private credit to private debt investors invested in, and then it just rippled through. There's a contrarian effect. There was a contagion effect, rather. But here you're seeing private debts, private credits as an asset class being taken seriously, like the direct lending, right? There was an announcement a couple of months ago that BlackRock actually invested $100 million in an African-focused fund for Africa private credits. You're seeing a couple of other funds from London like TLG do the same. And the thing about the private credit is it sort of gives you an equity upside with a bit of a cushion on your risk. And then it also lends directly to businesses like the manufacturing guys that can't get banks to lend to them, exporters that can't get banks to lend to them. And it's sort of... some of it will keep your exposure short term, so you can look at things on a 180-day, 1 year perspective and get that nice upside. But because most of it is collateralized, but there's also the long end that is also developing that comes bigger for manufacturers and the rest. So I think I also still like equity for 2026. I think there's a bit more upside in the equity markets, regardless of the capital gain situation. I think that
really,
yeah. I think that what I'm going to say something controversial, and a lot of my fellow market participants won't like, but I think the market shrugged this thing off on the 1st of January. I think we'll shrug it off. I think we'll shrug it off on the 1st of Jan.
I can see Biodun.
I know some people are going to slap me. I think we'll shrug it off 1st of Jan.
Biodun is busy off mic mode, but we're going to go right into buy, sell, or hold because of time.
And I'm going to get some phone calls right now.
Yeah, please, you guys call him because I really don't know. He hasn't really taken much, so I really don't know. Anyway, buy, sell, or hold, guys. Buy basically means you agree. Sell means you don't agree. Hold means you're neutral, and Tunji is not here because this is
Polish
sell. I got you.
Yeah. So I've got a number of buy, sell, or holds here, so we're going to make it really quick because of time.
Okay.
And so we've talked a lot about inflation and all that, and NPR cuts. And I'm just thinking, based on what Arnold said earlier, as that December inflation number, do you think with dirty December coming and a lot of people coming into Nigeria in December, people like you who are in...
I'm leaving before December.
It doesn't matter. Like that money you're spending is here.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see inflation numbers probably ticking up in December? It gets reported in January, though. But do you see it happen? Inflation numbers to go up in December, buy, sell, or hold?
No, I think I'd hold. And I don't see it going one way or the other.
Jordan?
So December numbers basically for November, right?
No, December numbers itself that will be reported in January.
In January.
So the December effect.
Buy, sell, or hold.
I would say hold. I think that the momentum that we have seen, the downward momentum I've seen, will probably slow in the dirty December
Hold means you're not sure. You don't
period. So I think I'm more of a sell.
So you think it goes?
Well, like Tunji now,
Sellish buy.
Wow.
I'm a
Sellish hold.
I'm a sellish hold.
I know.
Sorry.
Don't be like them.
Yeah. So when you explaining it, I wasn't listening. So you're gonna have to explain it again.
Yeah. So inflation numbers.
Yeah.
Do you think it's gonna spike?
Okay.
So the whole inflation numbers will go up in December.
I think it spikes
based
but
on some of the things you said.
So I think it spikes, but I hope MBS massages the numbers and it doesn't spike.
Are you? MBS massage number. MBS doesn't massage numbers.
I've said what I said. No.
So what are you saying? Buy.
No, but I think it spikes. So
you buy.
So is that a buy? If it
Yeah,
spikes,
that's a
I'm a
buy.
buy. Yeah, it spikes.
That's a buy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think the number when it comes out on the 15th of January, it spikes.
I kind
If it doesn't spike, I'll be curious.
That's
That's what I'm saying. If it doesn't spike,
yeah, I like
I think we should all
but I think
wonder
it
why.
would.
I mean, there's all of the uncertainty and some of the other things in the news that whatever the positive thing is, I think gets
There's ways.
There's ways.
right?
There's ways to-
Because typically, historically, you see the naira appreciating going into December, and I think
it does appreciate
because of all of this stuff, it's actually not right. So, because I thought I'd be dealing with naira in the
We're
1300s.
going to see a significant amount of dollar inflow.
We'll
in
see. December is not here yet, but I just see it
December
as
is just a
inflow
few-
may
so
come.
you-
But I think
so you
uncertainty.
guys think the strengthening of the naira will cushion whatever statistical anomaly that's supposed to cause it to spike?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
That was why I was.
No,
I don't know yet, but I think.
I think
Okay.
that's
I'm a
spikes,
buy,
right?
I mean,
Where you think
I
that
think
something
it-
happens?
it probably won't be as drastic as
I
it
think the
was.
figure is going to be very insignificant either way.
Yeah,
like a 50
I kind of
basis
think we'll
points.
probably be at the higher 15s.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
All right,
okay.
next one. Slow
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
There's gonna be a slowdown with GDP in Q4, and this is like a double. So this is the first one. There's gonna be a slowdown in Q4 GDP growth rate. Buy, sell, or hold. That's Nigeria's
Nigeria.
Q4
I was
GDP.
going to ask which country.
Yeah, Nigeria. I mean, we've seen growths over the last 3 quarters.
Yeah.
But are we due for a slowdown, or do you think it's still gonna?
Why do you think it slows?
It's a question. I'm going to
Oh,
ask.
okay.
You're asking the question with a question, man. Buy, sell, or hold. You can just say sell if you don't agree.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. I'd say sell. I
think momentum continues.
I think momentum continues because I think all of the stuff happening now, I think more time will pass.
Before we start feeling any impact.
Not just that. I think, I think Arnold said people will shrug off, CGT. And I think whether the Trump effect is, people are going to see, we'll see. Again, this is my opinion, right? So who knows if I'm right or wrong,
so
but
you're
I'm a
selling.
sell. Yeah.
Biodun.
So life will go on.
Despite CGT threat and outflow in equities and all that.
Life will go on. Nigerians will have a blast in
sure
December.
December.
Money will be spent, and regrets will be had in January.
I know.
Yeah.
I didn't sell it up.
Okay, so you're gonna have to forgive me.
Ooh.
What was the question again? What was the parameters? What's the parameters? No,
You haven't been drinking, man.
You should go to him first next time.
Buy, sell,
I
or
just
hold.
always say I made this I think like
Yeah.
Your
but
orientation is
parameters
off.
varies. Like, what's going on? Is my left or my right?
GDP is going to fall. There's
No,
going to be a
it won't. I
slowdown
don't
in
see
GDP
why.
in Q4.
I don't see why.
There's going to be a
I've been trying
slowdown compared to
figure out-
Q2, Q3.
But why?
Yeah, that's why we're
buy, sell,
sell.
hold.
That's why we're sell.
Why? CGT, sell off in equities.
To GDP?
Do you think the economy is still in the same sort of momentum it's been in
Yeah, I think.
second, third quarter, base effects and all that?
Nah,
really-
so I don't see why it slows. I'm still trying to piece it together. I don't see why it
You
slows.
go check the numbers though.
I'm just thinking, what am I
I kind of
missing?
think it slows though.
You think it slows?
Yeah, I'm buying that.
So why?
But why?
I'm buying that. It's just
Why?
numbers.
But why?
What am I
Which
missing?
numbers?
I just think that towards the end of the year,
Yeah.
people kind of down tools. I think,
GDP is our production, and I'm
Yeah,
not seeing what are we producing that's gonna. So
yeah.
Goes up.
I mean, no time to dissect that.
But
you're all selling, I'm buying.
Give me something to think about, so I need to go back and think.
Yeah, but anyway, this one is probably easy.
Does it seasonally decline in Q4? Am I right?
You already sold.
Sorry.
That in December is supposed to be this economic phenomenon, right? So
quickly.
I don't think historically.
My God.
Oh wow!
Quickly.
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
Insecurity will impact capital importation. Q4 numbers. Buy, sell, or hold.
In Q4 numbers. Okay.
In Q4, that's very limited. I'd buy that. Yeah, I'll buy it.
Yeah, if that's the case, then it slows, no?
I said insecurity will slow down.
Oh, slow down.
Yeah, would negatively
impact
capital importation.
He didn't say how much negative impact, but negative impact. Like, it's not a positive.
Yeah,
which means capital importation will be much lower in Q4. That's basically what it means.
So,
unfortunately,
it'll be lower.
Yeah.
So that's what is that a buy?
Yeah.
Buy.
Yeah, I'm a buy.
You buy.
I think this we're in Q4 now.
But it's going to be
because I think equities are saying
lower,
already. So,
but it's going to be not just.
But it's not insecurities though.
It's
and.
But you gotta be careful with how you're buying though, because remember that we just did an oversubscribed Eurobond, and that's in Q4. So I mean, but I'm buying.
Yeah, we're already okay.
We're committed.
We're in. Last buy on the hill. This one is a lot more social impact.
It is what it is.
Let's see. I just want to gauge your positivity levels.
Right.
So Nigeria is going to be the largest destination for remote workers.
For
remote workers. Right.
Yeah.
When?
In the next 5 years. Within the next 5 years.
The largest
destination?
Largest globally.
Largest source.
It's not
It's a positivity level.
I have to base it in reality.
Yeah.
With
5
India being
no.
sorry, I can't. Not the largest.
Wow. So this is a case of the questionnaire is just not all right. The questionnaire.
No. I mean,
I
I have to. If I'm going to maintain any credibility, I have to see how you get there in 5 years. I don't see it.
I mean, I went to be the second largest crypto country when it comes to adoption.
What does that?
Yeah, but
what does that
data.
So you got maybe you guys are not seeing the data. Do you know in Nigeria?
The infrastructure is
now. Currently, we're like 1.5 million. That's the data that I have from Drinks and Mike.
Is that for remote working?
Yeah.
Yes, 1.5 million
versus India.
There's like hundreds of millions. In fact, India easily has over 100 million of those type
remote
of
workers.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Not India.
I mean, the population already.
India is a population of 1.something billion.
Yeah.
I mean,
per capita or per 1,000 people. In numbers, we can't do
numbers. We don't have the numbers.
Okay, in Africa.
I mean,
very possible.
Yeah, possible.
In 5 years.
Just a nominal value numbers, it's possible.
Agree.
But if you're doing it per capita, then it's different. If you're doing it per 1,000 people.
Nominal in Africa.
I think there's a lot of infrastructure investment that has to come along with that for that answer to even be remotely possible.
I think in Africa,
I've done my myself.
I think it's
anyway, drinks and mics. I'm more positive than these guys. If you're on my side, in the comment section, please buy. If you're not, sell. Let's hear from you. This has been Drinks and Mics brought to you by Diabetic. It's been an amazing session. Had a good time having Laolu in the house. Thank you so much. Come to Nigeria more often.
Why not stay for Dirty December?
Come around more often.
I have to get back to work.
So you also buy and sell Laolu. Let us know. He needs to know. We have a whole lot of audience outside Nigeria. And this is somebody who's coming in and enjoying Drinks and Mics.
This guy.
Of course, Tunji's going to be back pretty soon. And by the way, Drinks and Mics live audience session coming in December.
Yes.
If you want to be a part of it, let us know in the comment section. There's going to be a form that you're going to see and just fill in your information so that we can know how many people are coming in. That live audio session. It's going to be in Lagos. Sorry for those of you who are outside Lagos. It's going to be in Lagos, somewhere around Lekki. We're not going to tell you where yet, but it's going to be in Lagos. And so if you want to be part of this session, just fill your information in that form, and then we'll get back to you. Thank you guys for being around again, and until we do this next time, we do have a profitable week ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks. Cheers.
That was fun.
Cheers. Someone who started with wrong.
I ended up with one. All right.